So my next question to you is, what inspired you to help others understand this concept? And अगर हमें इस बात पर चलना है तो हमें इसके बारे में क्या क्या पता होना चाहिए?
सी बिफोर आई से और बताऊं कि क्या क्या होना चाहिए, जो मेरे को बड़ा इंट्रिगिंग लगी या मेरे को बहुत ऐसे लगा कि दुनिया को ये जानना चाहिए, पता होना चाहिए, इज एज आई सेड इन टर्म्स ऑफ सिंप्लिसिटी. सो आई ट्राई टू एक्सप्लेन इन टर्म्स ऑफ माई ओन चार्ट एंड ट्राई टू एक्सप्लेन in terms of what should be a basic Sagittarian ascendant. Obviously it is not possible now in the timing, from the limitation of our timing to explain all ascendant, but what I will try to do is try to explain. So for me, when I saw my own life, that how simply I can do something about it, I thought this should go to everybody. So now if any Sagittarian ascendant is watching, then what happens is very simply, you look at your chart, and this is what a Sagittarian ascendant chart will look like. If 2 minutes we forget about the planets and it's only the numbers, a lot of people have done research over this, but what I could draw from it is very simple. They're all the energies. So when I looked at this chart and my own chart, and 9 is my ascendant, so it simply means that I'm a Sagittarius ascendant or the Dhanu Lagna person. So this is my birth, which I'm an ascendant, but the opposite house is giving an idea that this is what you should be in this lifetime. So in this case, it is talking about being the number 3. What is number 3? Number 3 is all about the energies, mind you, what I'm telling you. That means number 3 is the energy of the Mercurian, is the communication, and it is about being childlike. So what it is telling me in some way, that become a childlike kind of a personality. Share your wisdom coming from the number 9 to others. This is the house of the others, and be very, don't get so stuck up in life. Now when I'm looking at every aspect of my life, how do I take this forward? It is very simple. You should just know the basics of what are the significations of all these 12 houses, and then look at your chart in that perspective. Like in my second house, I have the number 10. Who rules the number 10 is the planet Saturn. So Saturn energies are in my second house. So it talks about that in this lifetime, I have to be very conservative, careful about the money that I'm spending. I need to take care of my family. I have to be very careful about what kind of speech I'm using with others. It should not be harsh. So what happens is, it is not important every time to say something and all the people around you to be accepting your own school of thought. So this is a lesson that is teaching me, or I have to learn in this lifetime. You look at it that way. Third is the house of the efforts. It is ruled by Saturn and co-ruled by Rahu. So it says, put your efforts, do your karma yoga. Saturn is talking about karma yoga. Put your efforts in the right direction, but use a little tact in it. Don't do it very bluntly, and you will not get the desired result. Fourth house is basically your mother. It is your peace. It is about your comfort. It's about your vehicle. It's about your family, where your own family that you're growing. So it's talking for me in the number 12. So it says you have to be a giver here. So in my life, there are two ways you look at it: destiny or free will. Now, how do I explain it to you? Like, I had a broken family, and my mother was separated from me from the age of 4, and I never enjoyed my environment of a mother around. So it simply meant in this case that destiny in some cases takes it away from you, does that part. You don't have to be involved. But from a free will perspective, I have to be very clear that I have to be forgiving to my mother, maybe, because whatever, for reasons she might have left me and gone and had another life and another marriage and whatever. Or in terms of my own family at home, I have to be a giver attitude. How do you experience yourself? Anywhere, wherever you have number 1 in your chart, that is the area of experience for you. So for me, I will experience my life through the house of children, through my children. So all these significations, you can look into your chart and go into detail and see. And as I earlier said, that you have like the 12th house. So 8 number is the house of transformation. It's in my 12th house. So it simply means that transformation will come through research, transformation will come through occult, transformation will come through meditation, and that's how my whole journey started. So what I'm just trying to come at is, you have to make that effort very simply to try to understand your ascendant, look at the energies and then look at it very simply and not get obsessed. See, obviously when you will have your own chart, you will have planets also in those houses, there might be different stories about it, but that is part 2, part 3, part 4. But if you don't know anything about your thing, the minimum requisitive is that you should know your ascendant, and then you should know what is the way and what is the life purpose. Today there is a big story behind what is my life purpose. This is the life purpose. The divine through your chart is just telling you, do this. Like in my case, as I explained, that when you have this chart, this is your life purpose, you have to do this, and while you are doing it, that is enough. Our obsession is with doing too much. Just try to be simple, do this, and you'll see your life transform. Like when I did around 300-400 sessions with people, only after, and there is no way you can escape your debt. I did 400 sessions with people, and then the divine gracefully, mercifully allowed me to be able to meet my mother. So I look at it like that. So we all have debts, we have to clear it, but don't need to do something great about it कि अंगूठी पहनो, ये करो, because I personally don't believe that there could be any shortcuts and the real way. And look, hypothetically अगर हम मान के चले, I have nothing against it, and it must be also that people may get advantage of the issues in their life getting over by wearing this kind of a stone and that kind of a prayer. I'm not against it, but what you're doing actually, in my opinion, is that you're delaying it. So what you're telling the planets who have come and told you to do this and this chart to do this in terms of your life purpose, you're saying, hey, look, I don't want to do this, I want to delay it further, I will maybe come another 10-50 lifetimes, but not do it in this lifetime. And so you're asking for more trouble. That's how I look at it. So the best way is to accept it, look at your ascendant, and start working towards doing something about it. Instead of getting into thing, is ये करने से क्या होगा? Our mind is too calculative. We want to do too many things. We want to think that ये ऐसे होगा तो इसका ऐसे क्यों result नहीं है, whatever. See, there are some aspects you have to just let go. Otherwise, things like in our world, when there is COVID, things we have gone through a pandemic, people at that time did not realize. They were very people who I knew who were hale and hearty, but they suffered and they passed away in a pandemic. But people who had so many comorbidities, they are still alive. How do you explain it? Does science explain everything? I don't believe it. So there are a lot of facets in our life, and if we don't align to the Vedic science principle, in time to come, I am 100% sure there are many pandemics coming in different formats, like terms of mental pandemics, which is a big issue in time today all over the world. People, I get a lot of people who reach out to me who are on the verge of suicide. A lot of people but one amazing interesting thing that I've observed, and is my experience, that the West is waking up to Vedic science much faster. So the people who are themselves occult leaders, occult or into the spiritual domain, from Americas, from Europe, from maybe New Zealand, all people reaching out to me. But the problem in the world today is that people, when I tell them, their soul knows that what I'm telling them is right, but they are still in that conflict and the illusion of the mind, because mind is trying to make you do the same mistake that you have done in so many lifetimes. So the first important thing is to start taming your mind. For that, the only way is to do meditative practices, do breathing practices. So whenever that thought comes to you, you have to make a habit to push it away and go to a new positive thought. And for that, will it happen overnight? No, it will happen with practice, and it comes. And believe me, it may take time. Many times people ask me, and your also question would be, how do you know that you have now started awakening? This is a very question that generally people ask. That means very simple. There will be, whenever you're thinking about something, you will notice that there is a millisecond gap between the next thought, and that is the journey when you start on a spiritual domain. So you will, and it happened to me. I was wondering, suddenly there is a break between my next thought. There's a blank moment, and that is when you understand that your journey has commenced. And that comes, and that's a very beautiful moment where you realize that it's as if the world has stopped, and there is nothing about, like you must have heard people talking about in a meditative scenario, you listen to music and then you see birds, and I could never experience that, to be very honest. But yes, what I really experienced was that a millisecond kind of a gap, and that is how the whole journey happens. And then there are different facets to it. You may see the chakra opening and things like that. But the Vedic science, I believe, is here to stay for long, and it is going to be the like the pillar which will take our life, the life of our children into the future. And that phenomena, if I can say, is already started, and it is coming like a tsunami, and for the better. The challenge, obviously, I've always felt is, I've never been, or my wife or our school of thought has never been into subscribers, the kind of likes, because we are never into it. We are always into the very simple notion कि देखो किसी को अगर इससे help मिलता है या उनकी life betterment की तरह होती है, especially the children, and because our future is our children, and I think that is something that our focus has always been. And that's how I look at it, and we look at it and put our efforts while we are doing our daily life, daily routine, work, and other responsibilities.
That's so deep and so beautiful. So I just want to ask you, Sarvesh, that is everything in our life is 100% predestined? What is your take on this?
It is most of the people have this conception. I will not say misconception, because I cannot comment from what other philosophies talk about it, but it has been my genuine understanding कि हमारे लाइफ में जो भी है वो सब कुछ प्रीडिस्टाइंड नहीं हो सकता. बिकॉज अगर ऐसे होता तो फिर हमको इंसान होने की ज़रूरत नहीं थी. वी कुड हैव जस्ट बीन रोबोट्स. दैट्स माई टेक ऑन दैट. In my work with so many people on this path, I have realized that our life, as I said, is 60-40. 60% destined, 40% which we have to do as a free will. And the free will gives us the opportunity to get the transformation in our life. What do you mean by this? What is karma? The story of karma, though people in today's time to put it like a big and easy subject, and scriptures talk about it, something which only the gods know, or not even the gods know actually. Vishnu is the only supreme who can understand it. But the idea of karma in simplicity for me is that whenever there is a situation in front of you and you take an action towards it, whatever the outcome will come will decide the result in the future. It is simple as that. So if this statement is true, then no, nothing can be 100% predestined. However, having said this, there are some parameters which is very interesting and which I found in my way of life, कह लो, या in terms of जो मैं लोगों के साथ जुड़ के काम किया, इस जो हमारे लाइफ का सबसे स्ट्रॉन्गेस्ट कर्मा या डेट होता है वो हमारे स्पाउस के साथ होता है. तो मैनी पीपल माइट नॉट लाइक मी सेइंग दिस, बट जब लोग बोलते हैं कुंडली मिलान और ये वो, मेरा थॉट प्रोसेस इसके बारे में थोड़ा अलग है. बिकॉज मेरे वर्किंग या मेरे रिसर्च कह लो या मेरे एक्सपीरियंस से ये मैंने देखा इतने चार्ट्स देखने के बाद कि आपका जो स्पाउस होता है वो आपके कर्मा का कर्मा होता है. नाउ व्हाट डज दैट मीन? दैट इफ आई टू शो यू बाय मीन्स ऑफ द चार्ट, एंड इफ यू सी दिस, दैट दिस इज आवर लाइफ and this is the considered the 10th house. So 10th house in specifically in a general term called as the career house, or called as in terms of your karmic house. But what is the 10th to the 10th? That means there is a concept in the Vedic Shastra which is known as the Bhavat Bhavam. What is the meaning of Bhavat Bhavam? Anything in the terms of the higher synchronicity of it. That means if there is a second house, then second to the second will be the higher octave of it. Now I am talking to you in terms of a logic and in terms of the scientific part of it. So the 10th to the 10th, that means if you start counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So the 10th to the 10th will be the 7th house. So the karma of the karma is the 7th house, which is your partner. So what has been my experience is, though we might be looking at it in terms of a free will concept, but when it comes to the area of the spouse in your life, there is some kind of a story that it is very strong. That means there is a strong divine intervention that the spouse is already, जैसे बोलते हैं, निर्धारित, आपको पहले जन्मों से डिसाइड किया गया है कि ये आपको स्पाउस मिलेगा. Now there is another very interesting and easy way to identify how to understand that ये मेरे लाइफ में ये बंदा या बंदी मेरा हस्बैंड बनेगा या वाइफ बनेगा. इट्स अ कॉन्सेप्ट इज वेरी सिंपल. Wherever, see, for a female, Mars represents the husband, and for the male, the Venus represents the wife. So whichever planets will be around your Mars for a female, and whichever planets will be around Venus for a male, will show the type of spouse coming into your life, and that spouse will have that kind of energies. Now, why did I tell you this? It was very simple to tell you both ways. So destiny is saying that yes, you cannot choose your wife or your husband, but you can understand that this is the kind of story that is going to happen in your life, and this is the way you're going to get your husband and wife in these characteristics. And accordingly, obviously, you go back to my initial storyline in terms of the karmic debts and whatever we have to do, and you have to align to that. So that's why they say in many times you get that kind of a spouse or that kind of a husband where some little surrender is required, a little of alignment to that is, a little compromise is required. See, in our initial, if you go to our ancestors' thought process, why do our society in India and abroad think otherwise? Why are there so many divorces? I'm not saying divorces is not happening in our country, but when they are happening much more easier in an international scenario like in UK or Europe, is primarily because somewhere our roots are very to the depth of our culture, where we don't want to easily give up. So it is somewhere like aligning to the philosophy of the Vedic science, that there is some kind of a debt that you need to do. See, I get a lot of people who come to me, and when I look at their chart, I have a fair inclination that these people are not in for long-term solution. They want a shortcut remedial thing. So when I tell them, look, that you, in terms of you have a issue with respect to your relationship or your husband, and they are not willing to compromise, their immediate take is that, look, I want to actually, they go to that extent and say that I am willing to change my husband. These are the words people use, that I am ready to change my husband or wife, but can you guarantee that the next person who will come will be the perfect match for me? And I always tell them very politely and humbly that it is simply this, that until you don't pay your debt, you will get the same type of person in your life again and again. I've got a lot of number of examples where people came to me and they said, like, look, this is my, I had a relationship breakup in the first marriage, and then I met this person, and later he turned out to be the same type of person. So imagine somebody had gone into so much of turmoil in a relationship, married life, and then after 7 years or 6 years maybe they parted ways. Then you met somebody else. At the start he looked different, but later he turned out to have the same habits, right to that level that the person liked the same type of fruits, he liked the same type of sports. So it was amazing, and when I could understand where it is coming from and what is happening, because until you're not paying your debt, the story is continuing. And there are numerous examples, like person like Marilyn Monroe and lot of these film stars and thing who face this, in terms of a whole pattern. So that is how to summarize the question that you asked me, that I am a strong believer that no, nothing is 100% destined. If you have to ask my opinion, it's a simple balance between 60 and 40. 60% is your predestined thing, where you will have to go little surrender. There is some area where you cannot do much other than just doing some prayer or aligning in a different way. But where you have the power to transform is in your 40%, which is your free will, and that area I can 100% assure that it is in your hands and you can do about it. I think that is how I would look at it.
Wow, great. So I just want to ask now, these roles of relationships, do they interchange in every janam?
Yes, excellent question. A lot of people have asked me in terms of how this interplay works, and it has been my experience that always there is some kind of a DNA which is transferring from one chart to another. So to explain it in an easier way, if you have a chart and then you have a daughter or a son who has that their own charts, and you will see some kind of shades carrying on into the generations. So what it also means that all these people, unless your debts are not cleared, will be aligned or coming in the same cycle or coming around you all the time. If you are getting born again, then they will come again around you. Now this has been brilliantly captured in a recent Netflix documentary that I saw. It's not a documentary actually, it's a series which is known as Another Self. And it is very nice for people who are into Vedic science to see that globally people are accepting these things much faster. I get people who are coming to me from all around the globe who tell me things, and then I know that this has been a pickup kind of a thing from the Vedic roots, and they're talking about, a lot of authors have written things about how you can heal yourself by Louise Hay, all coming from the mind. Vedic science has been talking about this from 5,000 years ago. Unfortunately, we have not been able to being Indian and not been able to understand this in the right way, because our obsession was always about the shortcut. That's how I look at it. But it is a phenomenal thing, and now the world is waking up to this, and all these things are coming up in the domain where people are talking about it. And why did I talk about this series Another Self? Because they are talking about family constellation. So they have described it more like a generation thing, that unless you are not clearing that debt in whatever way, the way they must have shown the debt is a different way, but it is all about paying the debt and then the cycle breaking. Like one of the very interesting thing I observed in my own chart was that when I look into my own family, I come from a place like Goa, and most of the people are associating Goa with lot of other things other than very far away from Vedic science. And my whole family, relatives, nobody would ever believe that I'm working in a platform like this. But when I look into my chart, there is always, you must have heard this story about a pattern breaker. So in my life, I realized that I was supposed to be the pattern breaker. My ancestral debt, it's not only your own debt. There are a lot of debts connected which come to you through your ancestors. Many times I used to wonder, why am I suffering or why am I facing issues in this life? Because of somebody else. My parents separated. Why am I suffering? Somebody did that. I'm suffering. What did I do? So when I'm looking at it now, I realize that these are all connected to our ancestors. Maybe my generations, my family domain did not, somehow look at a woman with respect to respect in some way, did not treat them well. So eventually I had to do an intervention to break the pattern and try to help. See, 95% of the people who are coming to me are females from all around the world. So I realized that there is some kind of a debt, and then that I had to do it. And believe me, when people today come and say, most of the time they're suffering lack of sleep in today's era. Multimillionaires coming and saying that I can't sleep. People who don't have children saying that I can't sleep because I don't have children. People who have 4 children coming to me, they say I can't sleep because I have 4 children. What happened was a realization that over time I realized that the problems of the world are so much, I forgot my own problem. And that is what the awakening starts coming in. and it is a brilliant thing if you can really start working in terms of aligning your life and starting working towards it. I think Vedic science is so easily available, it's so easily approachable, and you don't need to be spending money. You don't need to, you can do it on your own, provided you can put effort and time. And really, you don't need to go to anybody, you don't need to even come to a person like me. If you can put in your effort and really start doing, obviously you require a little nudging, a little guidance, like a teacher, whoever you can choose, but always believe in the philosophy, and you see the answer lies in simplicity. I would always hang on to that part very strongly.
Okay. So, Sarvesh, I'm really curious to know about your spiritual roots, about your guru. Can you please tell us?
Before I answer your question with respect to how these learnings come in and whatever, obviously there is always a divine angle to it in some way or the other. Who's been into this line will realize, and I always believe in some way. As you know, there was an article I read where Jesus says that only when you die you can find me. Now most of the people might think this analogy to be like a realistically dying kind of a situation, but ऐसा नहीं है. It is more about क्या कहते हैं कि जब आप अपने आप को बदल देते हो, आपका थॉट प्रोसेस बदल देते हो, तो आपको डिविनिटी से एक मुलाकात होती है. तो मेरे केस में ऐसे हुआ कि maybe I went through tough times in my life because of my family situation, because of life and whatever, and then I started experiencing what miracles of divinity are possible. So the first answer to this is that life is the biggest teacher. तो सबसे important बात जो मैंने सीखी was through life itself. एंड जो मैं दुनिया में घूमते घूमते ये सोच रहा था कि मेरा गुरु कौन होगा, आई रियलाइज दैट each one of us has one kind of a teacher within our soul which we need to awake first. If you are blatantly lucky, then you will find the so-called guru, but until then you should never get into this notion that guru ki zarurat hai as a, you know, as a guru, but you must look at it in more in terms of the guru within you. So that was my first awakening. Second part is obviously, as I said, I give credit to the, you know, the meditation thing that I got into. I did not honestly get into the Shambhavi Kriya and whatever, because my awakening started as soon as I started meditating. So Sadhguru played a very important life in terms of, bolte na, thoda catalyst ki tarah to, you know, make this process faster. When I started, you know, the यूनिवर्स बोलते ना, मूवीज ने मेरे को जैसे सिखाया कि पूरी कायनात पीछे हो जाती है टू ट्राई टू सपोर्ट यू, लाइक शाहरुख डायलॉग, you know, and Om Shanti Om. So what happens is the universe, the YouTube, the emails, this kind of push starts happening that it directs you to that kind of particular video, that kind of particular teacher to give you that kind of insight. So if you look back and I say that who played a very important role in my life, I will give lot of credit to, you know, writings of Sri K.N. Rao, lot of people like Sunil John, who I never met actually, but I looked at their philosophy and I could align to the philosophy to keep it in simplicity. K.N. Rao did lot of work. He still, you know, he put his entire life towards making this, you know, astrology, to put it to the masses, develop it over that kind of thing. And today technology, see, if I was born in an era where there were no computers, then a person like me who would have been bad at mathematics might have not been able to take up anything in the Vedic science or astrology per se. But today computers are there which can fill in the gaps by means of being able to make the chart easily. So that is a big role, and that is where I always say Rahu plays the role, because Rahu rules the technology era, and today we are doing this video, and you know, when it will come to YouTube, it's all in an era of the Rahu domain. So one principle I always say, that do not think so much in terms of calling somebody a guru. And why? Because the Shastras are very clear. If you call somebody a guru, then you have to live by some kind of sadhana, some kind of discipline towards it. You cannot call somebody a guru today and by end of the week call him a swine. उसको आप उसको गाली नहीं दे सकते हो, आपको मतलब you have to have some kind of a relationship maintained. You are not supposed to be backbiting him. You're not. So I always advise people, don't call somebody a guru if you're not going to be keeping up to the standards or whatever in terms of your disciple. So because if you do that, then the shastras say that your chart starts getting weaker by the energies of the Jupiter in your chart. So I always advise people, make a person a guide, make a person a teacher, but be very careful to call somebody the guru per se, because it can go to your disadvantage more than your advantage. Because I hear people when they tell me, I'm following this person, but I think that I can't resonate with this person. After some time, people lose interest very fast. So my advice to everybody is, listen to somebody, take their teachings, resonate with them whatever level you can. What doesn't align with you, let it be. Don't get into the thing to criticize, talk about it, because that doesn't do well in any thing. It is always better to stick to your own belief system. You have a full right to have your own school of thought, like maybe I might have my own school of thought, but that doesn't give us the power to simply criticize somebody. We might not know something, so there is no point talking about that subject, whatever. So take the best part from people, take the best part from the teachers, and then you see what is aligned. Because see, everybody has their own school of thought, isn't it? That means somebody might believe in stones, somebody might believe in doing these remedies, somebody might be wanting to preach it in one fashion. We have no right to say this is right or wrong, and I don't believe that. I would not want to demean anybody, but at the same time, I believe in my school of thought. I believe in my principles, and anybody who wants to be aligning it with, and they're welcome to try and see how their life can change. That's been my always lesson. But eventually, be always receptive, because one thing I learned on street is that if you want to learn, you need to be like an empty sponge. If you have too much baggage on you, then there is nothing that you can learn. It is always important that just be receptive, be open, talk less, listen more, imbibe it, practice, and then you see the transformation happening.
Okay. So my next question to you is, what is karmic alignment? So when any seeker comes to you, so what exactly he gets from the session?
I was waiting for this one. In terms of a karmic alignment, or whatever you say in terms of Drishti Sutram school of thought, there are two types of work that we generally work with people. One, on the first level, is in terms of understanding. But there are some principles in the school of Drishti Sutram that me and my wife have laid down. The first important thing is that we don't take it up like a service base. That means what I'm trying to tell you is, it's not about somebody coming to us and paying up us the fees and saying, okay, now you do this for us. No, there are some principles that we follow. That means whenever somebody comes to me, I would first spend time looking at the person's chart, see that if it's the right time for this person to be given this knowledge. Because see, Vedic science is very powerful. Somebody comes to me, I know with what intention that person is coming. The chart talks about it very clearly. We don't need to ask that person. In 750 readings that I've done, I've never asked the other person anything. I'm just talking my side of the story, what I'm looking from the chart. And on 750 plus sessions, I've got on record and in the computer, in terms of the videos, that everybody has agreed to what has been their outline and things like that. So the confirmation is always there. So what happens is, everyone has always told me that yes, this is blatantly how my life has been, and I am totally resonating at a soul level. But coming back to the question of karmic alignment, what we do, so once I'm very sure about that this knowledge can be transferred to this person, so I then work with this soul actually to first I write about 25-30 pages. It takes a lot of hard work, time consuming. That's why I have a pre-interview kind of a thing. I have to do this, because if I'm going to spend 10 hard days onto doing somebody's work, then I have to be very sure what type of a person is. More importantly, I have to be sure कि ये बंदा, मैं जो भी नॉलेज इनको दे रहा हूँ डिवाइन विल से, they will be able to really use it, and they will use it, make effort towards it, because that is the most important. So when I'm doing done so the pre-session I do with the person just to understand his vibrations, understand where he's coming from, see how genuine he needs to be helped in that format. And once I pass that threshold and I'm sure that this person really need, see, eventually don't think of it like in a judgmental way that I'm judging people. It's not about that. For me, if you understand my life, Vedic science holds the highest kind of a level, and there is no compromise in terms of the effort I put also, and I expect the same thing from the person who comes to me. It's not like a service based, you go to a restaurant and you got this just by paying money. So when I'm doing this for this person and I'm writing this, I was very clear that whenever there's a divine guidance, why should somebody come to you again and again and again? So I have a principle that once I've given you the writing of 25-30 pages more about what you should do, to a very simple concept like what kind of a watch you should wear, what kind of mantra is aligning to your life. Because look, like you don't go and pay your telephone bill to Bharti Mittal at Airtel and you go to a vendor or distributor, same thing, divine has outlined specific divinities or deities aligned to your chart. So you need to do that kind of alignment in working towards it. And when I write about this to the person, then I summarize it to them that what should be your dincharya, what should be your daily routine in terms of aligning to this, what should be your strategy now. Because good, if you want to win the game of life, you need to be a good strategist. So आपको अच्छी तरह से उसके आपके दिनचर्या में आप उसको you'll assimilate it, you'll put it along with it, and then I give it in video recording to that person, only with the intention कि वो लाइफ भर उसको रेडी रेकनर की तरह यूज करे। जब भी किसी भी रास्ते पे, जब उनको दो रास्ते दिखाई देते हैं, एक चौराहे पे आते हैं और दो रास्ते, और डिसाइड नहीं कर पा रहे हैं कि कौन सा रास्ता चुने, they can go back to the writing work, they can listen to the video recording, and you see the what direction to take. Simple. And so they don't have to be dependent on Drishta Sutram, they don't have to be dependent on Sarvesh or anybody, or go back to anybody in the outline world and ask for that answer, because that answer is always there. The good part about Drishta Sutram till today has been that so many people come back to me and they thank me, and say that, Sarvesh, my life has turned around, it is changed and whatever. Unfortunately, people have not been able to accept, to give that kind of prominence to Vedic science at a general level. They still are more comfortable saying कि हमने यहाँ जाके रेकी किया, ये हीलिंग किया, वो किया. The world is more accustomed to that. But जब वैदिक साइंस आता है, लोगों को लगता है ये अंधविश्वास है, whatever. But in the work that I'm doing and the feedback that I get, people have transformed their life. To that extent, I then don't get into predictive astrology. बट जब मेरा जब आप एक फ्लो में होते हो, जैसे आज हम बात कर रहे हैं, तो डिवाइन साइंस में हमेशा कहते हैं कि कुछ तो ऐसा निकल जाता है आपके मुंह से जो सरस्वती आपके जुबान पे होती है. तो जब भी मैं किसी का सेशन कर रहा होता हूँ, तो वो 2 दिन के पहले या 1 दिन के पहले कुछ तो ऐसे इंफॉर्मेशन मेरे पास थ्रू नॉलेज, आई एम ऑल्सो लर्निंग एवरी डे, आई एम ट्राइंग टू एक्सपीरियंस लाइफ इन दिस फोरम एवरी डे. सो ऐसे कुछ आ जाता है मेरे पास, नॉलेज बोलो या सम काइंड, वेयर द डिवाइन्स इनडायरेक्टली सेइंग कि दिस पर्सन को आप ये बताना. So that has been amazing. So when I'm telling this thing to the person, I also don't know why these things are coming. And then better after 1 year, 2 years, they share कि आपने सर्वेश उस टाइम मेरे को बड़ा क्लियरली बोला था कि मेरे लाइफ में एक ऐसा बंदा आएगा and he will have these characteristics. And when they come and tell me, I feel like divine is great because I'm not doing anything. आई एम ओनली पुटिंग माई सिंसियर एफर्ट. मैंने अपनी मेहनत हमेशा पूरी करता हूँ, चाहे वो मेरा पहला रीडिंग था या फिर आज 750 के प्लस रीडिंग हो गए, तो एफर्ट उतना ही है. एंड शायद आज ज़्यादा विल है करने का, बिकॉज मैं आई एम सीइंग पीपल ट्रांसफॉर्म. एंड इससे बड़ी बात क्या हो सकती है? अगेन कमिंग बैक टू दैट लेवल वेर आई से that I came from a verge of suicide, and today 750 people I've been able to guide, and maybe God willing their lives in some manner has transformed. I think for me that is the biggest win, and somewhere I feel great about it, thanks to my ancestors. Somewhere I feel my parents also will be very proud that from where I came from, and today, being like a small spark in lot of people's life, to help them, to align them, कुछ भी आप बोलो, eventually, many times I feel very humbled, because people come back to me with us feedback, where somebody came to me who was on the verge of suicide, and when I'm talking to that person and giving them insights at the soul level, their perspective to life changes. Somebody who was about to give up life today is looking at a life with family, who's making good money, living a balanced life. For him, he comes back to me and says, you are like God, divine to me. So I always say, it is not about that. It is always about, I cannot be that person, but what I did was only in terms of aligning you to that. So for me, the best part is I feel blessed that I was being a part of this. And again, as I said, it is simply about, I don't want to be too attached to it also. That means करने वाला तो सब ऊपर वाला है, या जो भी ये यूनिवर्स में पावर है, हमारा काम है बस अपना बेस्ट करना and take it as it comes, because one never knows how long we are going to live in this life. Because I know one thing for sure at the end of the day, that moksha is everything that I aspire for eventually. So many times people say, very easy for you to say, Sarvesh, in terms of moksha, normal person cannot. See, please understand, I am only a normal person. If I can talk about it, anybody can. So it is only about your mindset, your thought process. And one very strange thing that happened, somebody said to me that moksha आप बात कर रहे हो, but practical life में आपको मतलब आप थोड़ी काम वाम छोड़ सकते हो, because moksha doesn't talk about that. Moksha is going something like parallel to whatever you're doing your karma duties. That means whatever work तो आपको करना ही है. मैं भी आज प्रोफेशन में हूँ, I am doing a 9 to 6 job, maybe I am doing this work along with the work I am doing. Am I doing it for money? No, I am doing it more in terms of aligning people, helping them. So what happens is, because my थोड़ा सेल्फिश मैं इधर हो सकता हूँ, क्योंकि मेरे को भी ये पता है, तो मैं ज़्यादा ये माई डेट्स क्लियर करके आई वॉन्ट टू नेवर कम बैक एज अ ह्यूमन बीइंग. So that is my maybe a little selfishness, but that is my karmic duty to do. But I'm not running away from my daily work or my responsibility. So karmic alignment reinforces all this philosophy that we have been talking about in the last 1 hour, and there is a immense potential for the world to align. नाम आप चाहे इसका कुछ भी बोलो, कोई बोलेगा alignment, कोई बोलेगा कुछ भी, and it doesn't, it's not owned by anybody, but it is more about just balancing your energies with respect to your Vedic chart. Simple as that.
Okay. Thank you so much, Sarvesh, for your valuable insights and beautiful experiences. And I think कि हमारे viewers ने इससे बहुत सारा लाभ भी उठाया होगा. एंड हमारे सेकेंड एपिसोड में हम और भी एक्सपीरियंसेस आपके और लर्निंग्स लेके आएंगे. एंड इट वाज रियली अ वंडरफुल सेशन विद यू, एंड आई एम रियली ग्रेटफुल फॉर दैट. थैंक यू सो मच.
I would again like to thank you for inviting me onto this forum, because whenever there is an opportunity for sharing the wisdom that our ancestors have done effort 5,000-6,000 years ago, which unfortunately the society is not using, which I'm sure with time things will change. और जब ये ज़्यादा लोगों को पहुँचेगा और कोई बस वैदिक के अप्रोच की तरफ चलने लग जाएगा, मेरे को लगता है that is the time I will feel that yes, my effort has materialized and people can really use it in terms of their daily life to make a healthy life, to make a wholeheartedly, like an overall a 360-degree kind of an approach to life, so that the contentment is there, people can sleep properly, they have a peaceful atmosphere at home, and eventually at the end of the day, isn't that what we all aspire for? So from that thing, I will love that the people use this knowledge to their advantage, and if God willing, in the future, if there is anything I can be further associated in terms of taking this much more further, then I'll be always willing to give in my effort, and with people like kind people like you, and many of such people who will look at it in a very positive thing, not looking it in terms of andhavishwas, because our biggest problem today is our over education, because hum itna see being an architect and trying to look at all these things in a logical per se and taking it further was the biggest conquest for me. So I feel this is how people have to look at it, be open to it, look at it. I'm not saying when day one go and start believing in it, try it out, see if it works for you. Why do you want to be dependent on short term remedial and short term approach in life? Why to take a crocin every day when you can change your life cycle with the kind of the way you will orient your life? But on that thought, I'll thank you once again, and I hope it reaches out to people, and people can, especially the young people, benefit out of it. And I think it's been a great experience talking on this platform with you, and wishing you best on the journey, and taking this to the masses at a maybe national level now, and maybe at a much more global level in the future. My best wishes to you and your team. Right?
Thank you so much.